Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the stream. I'm the Wombat of Noom,
I'm Mega Kirby.
And I'm Trillian Spears.
and today we're going to be talking about, tutorials. Tutorials in video games, right, guys?
Yeah, they're
Tutorials.
yes. Okay, that sounds like a boring topic, but for real, tutorials are super important because, at least for me, when I start a new game, there's a moment between at the start of a new game, it feels like work, and I don't want to play it because you have to put in the effort to learn how does this game play. Then at some point, it's not exactly like a snap, but there's a transition to where the game becomes fun if the core mechanics are good because you know how the game plays and you play it for fun instead of playing to learn. And if you have a good tutorial, it can expedite that process. So you're not slogging through some bull crap. And I've given up on games because the tutorial is not sufficient or it's overly sufficient, and I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some games work it into the story and it works really well. Some games make it really simple. Some games make it super complex.
Mm-hmm.
And then some games don't put in a tutorial at all.
Thank you, FromSoft. Thank you so much.
And that can
Well,
work.
FromSoft
All
has a
those can
tutorial.
work.
Barely.
In Dark Souls 1, the whole first area is the tutorial. Even the boss is a tutorial.
You know, actually, that's pretty accurate to say. I would say.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually. So
Or Dark Souls.
let me demonstrate that. So you start off in a hallway. They drop an item. They teach you how to pick it up. There's messages on the ground that tell you how to do different things. They give you small types of enemies that you can practice on. They give you a bonfire just before a boss to teach you how to save.
It really does kind of teach you the whole core mechanics of the game.
Then they give you a boss, and they teach that there's different ways to handle a boss. You can either take it on head on and die a lot, or you can find other ways of going about it, such as, a little side passage. Then they teach you how to shoot or how to dodge arrow shots at you. And they teach you how to interact with an NPC. Then
because it even gives you and they teach you that NPCs will give you things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even remember that dude's name, but
I know he's like the best bro. He gives you Sunny D.
He gives you Sunny D.
And then you're like, see ya.
They also teach you that there's traps and that they can happen at any point.
It gives you the fear of losing souls.
Mm-hmm. Then it also teaches you that you can handle. It gives you a little bit harder enemies, and then it allows you to roll up on a boss from above. So it shows you that you can actually interact with the boss different ways in some aspects. So that whole area is a tutorial, and then it just drops you in. Literally, a crow drops you in.
Yeah, it really actually it teaches you enough to go and beat the game. At that point in time, you probably have enough to go fight Gwen. It even taught you about parries and stuff like that.
Right.
So you could just be like, if you were hard enough, you could just be like, okay, well, throw me in the Gwen right now, and I could do it. Because
I bet you could all beat Gwen if they just do what's in there. It'd be tough, but I think eventually we get the parry diving down. I don't think it'd be that bad.
Yeah. Or unless you're like me and you just don't parry at all. But but that game, I guess a lot for Dark Souls, at least a lot of the criticism you get is that there is so much more to that game that you don't learn in the tutorial that you just have to figure out on your own.
It's not very clear on how weapon scaling works, how stats work, on how resistance is a Garbo stat that you shouldn't put points into.
You should never ever don't even look at resistance. Don't even look at it.
Yup. They're not very clear that your starting class has very little significance on what happens the rest of the game. You might think that you're making an incredibly important decision, but
doesn't teach you about anything about the blacksmith. Nothing. You're just kind of like, okay, well, I gotta figure all this out.
Well, the blacksmith does tell you some things, but all that's extra mechanics that isn't part of the base game. It's stuff to add to what you're already doing. So I mean, I'm okay with that. And it's kind of in Dark Souls vein to not hold your hand after that point. You know what I mean? They
treat you
to find out what a weapon does, you got to look at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a different take from games that are going to hold your hand every step of the way. You're about to go into the final boss room, and then all of a sudden something little dialogue pops up, and they're like, "Did you know that you could do this?" You're like, "Still tutorials at this part of the game?" You know,
Yeah.
and that, it's just like the juxtaposition between that. There's different takes you can do, and I think that's kind of what inspired this whole topic today. Like, I would much prefer the way Souls did it and leave things ambiguous because it is kind of rewarding to like you're like I found that, or or in my case, like when I'm begging chat to help me, and then like they're like, you didn't know you could do this, and I'm like, oh my god, I've been granted eyes. I know how to work this menu.
Yep.
It's crazy. I'd rather have that though than because I think what was a good game. Dante's Inferno. I feel like I'm about ready to go fight Lucifer, and all of a sudden they're just like, hey, did you know if you press A, you're like, I don't need this right now.
You know, if you
Stop.
press A.
I'm like,
Did
what are
you?
you doing? I learned this like on day 2 at least.
See,
Crazy.
that's the problem that some games have where like either they tell you way more, like they tell you the same thing over and over again. Like, and honestly, this isn't the exact same thing, but like Legend of Zelda, specifically, I know Skyward Sword does this. Every time you start up the game, so like if I play and I quit and I come back,
Oh.
I pick up a blue rupee. Hey, buddy, this is worth 5 of them. I'm like, dude, no shit. Why do you
Yeah.
tell me this again? Like,
Is that Skyward Sword, or is it, I know Twilight Princess does it.
they both do it then. I
Okay.
know Skyward Sword, so they both do it, and there are probably other ones that do it. But like, that's so unnecessary. Like, they shouldn't make you do this. And the same kind of thing, like this, I can't exactly fault them, but like Pokemon, every Pokemon game has a tutorial that's like an hour to an hour and a half, and it's fine to have that, but they need to ask you, have you literally ever played a Pokemon game before? Because nothing's changed, and if I just say yes, it skips all of that. And some
Right.
games really don't respect your time, and they keep telling you the same information over and over again that's basic, and there's no need to know.
So Pokemon does do that.
It does. They don't tell
Okay.
you the same information over and over again.
That's
It's not like
awesome.
this is a Pokemon. Every single, like, you've played Red. If you've played one Pokemon game, you've played any of
Right.
them. And so let's say you wanted to play Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. You're gonna have to go through an hour and a half tutorial about what Pokemon are, how you catch them, what Pokeballs are, how you level them up, Pokemon centers, who your rival is. You already know all this. I just want to
Yeah.
be able to skip this because I've played a Pokemon game before. I'm not saying
Literally-
remove the tutorial, but make it optional.
Just tell me like, what is Dynamaxing? How does it suck? Okay, that's
Well,
all I need to know.
Yeah. How do I make my Pokemon big? Like,
What is that little poopy cloud flying around?
So
Okay.
wait. So just to confirm, Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield don't have a tutorial skip.
no, none of them do. There is no tutorial.
Okay, see, that's what I thought you were saying that they did. And I was
Oh,
like,
no, I'm
oh,
sorry. None
props,
of them
Game
let you
Freak.
get tutorials, and they need to.
Got it. Yeah, like, have you
That's
been
my
a
point.
Pokemon trainer in the past? All right,
Exactly.
but are you new to this region? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this region.
Yeah, just tell me about, I guess, Dynamaxing if I really want.
What's
but you do not
different?
tell me about Pokeballs or
What the fuck did you do to
gyms.
mess up this game? Right?
Yeah. So that's like, and just I guess we can talk about that, like just the recycling of information over and over again. And it's even worse when it's in one game, like you said, Dante's Inferno or Zelda. Like, dude, we know this. We're at the final boss. I know what
Yeah.
a blue rupee is. I know how to attack and dodge. Why are you telling me this? Like,
Yeah.
if it's at a loading screen and it cycles through shit like, oh, do this to parry, fine. But like, it shouldn't interrupt your gameplay with a tooltip. Hey, buddy, you can block. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Looks like
Yeah.
you want to parry Glenn. Want some help?
Exactly. The best.
No, Clippy, get out of here.
If you got that far, that's actually a problem. If you were able to get that far into the game without something as basic as blocking, then there's a problem with the game design. Like with Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne, you don't beat him until you know how to efficiently dodge and time your attacks. That's how
Right.
games need to do it. You shouldn't be able to get that far without learning the basics. If there's extra stuff like pulling off sick combos like in a hack and slash like Dante's Inferno, fine. But basic commands, if I can get to the last boss without doing them, the game's bad. Not bad, but flawed.
Okay, so that point right there, I think, is a good segue into one topic that I definitely want to cover. And Trell, I'm sorry that I'm gonna do this, but I gotta talk about
Do it to
Neo.
him.
I gotta talk about Neo. So I won't talk about any storyline stuff, but
Okay.
The stories. Do you even know the story? Do you actually know the story? Because I don't.
I mean, I know kind of what's going on.
Okay.
Now I've just been skipping anybody's backstory.
Nice.
So like, you know how like you meet somebody and it like goes into like cinematics and like introduces like in a story
Yes.
like what their past was like. I don't care about that. So
Good. Nice.
anyway,
I'm very proud of you.
Trell's
talking
over there
about?
like Trell's like what the fuck? Anyway, Neo
Neo. Okay.
has a tutorial area at the beginning.
Okay. Cool.
And
Tutorials are
it
fun.
teaches you a few things. It teaches you some of the basics, but then it teaches you them again in a dojo. Right
doesn't
after
matter.
that. So like the tutorial area that they made that's similar to like Undead Asylum, for instance, the example I gave, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Is the dojo optional?
No.
So you go through the tutorial twice.
Yes.
Yes, but the dojo one actually makes sense because it's in real combat and it goes
It's-
over all the
It's
details.
better.
The
But
first one's just like stupid.
right.
It's the
And-
equivalent of like, did you get all that? Do I need to explain it again? And then you're
But
like,
you have to explain.
and you're
it
like
again.
sitting there like
And I
tapping
think-
A. You're like, come on, hurry up, hurry up. No, I did. I hit yes. Oh no, I don't want to go through it again. No, please.
You end up getting your stuff that you got in that first area back later, but like when you originally start the game, none of the stuff that you even get from it applies. Yeah, so like it's like completely meaningless. So
Cool.
another viewer just says it matters, but I'm not sure what that means. But like
Oh, it matters.
Yeah, wait,
like-
what matters? I'm sorry.
either way, like while he's typing that out, like the biggest problem I had with it was like that. So they introduced the dojo as a thing, so that you can do other things in the dojo later, but they kind of doubled up on like tutorials because of it. Like if you're gonna introduce the dojo, do that as the tutorial. Like I don't know, like.
No, I agree. Like, don't make me do 2 tutorials. And if you want to say that the intro sequence matters for like story reasons or something else, then make it like what's the word? Make it include everything, so I don't have to do the dojo next.
Right. Like yeah.
Are you guys talking about True Crime Streets of LA? Yes. Yeah, I'm talking about True Crime Streets of LA actually, and how
yeah.
the tutorial of that matters. I just don't think the tutorial of True Crime Streets of LA is sufficiently good enough to explain why I should care about it. You know,
What is that game?
it sounds like a show.
Yeah, it sounds like a show to me. Anyway,
Of the game.
moving on. And so I don't think either tutorial is actually successful. And the reason why is actually proof in the pudding. I'm still not using things in the game that I was taught in the tutorial, and I haven't needed them. Kirby
Really?
beat the game barely using anything but slashing, right?
Oh, you're saying like not using the spirits?
Right, like not using spirits, like
Yeah, I just wasn't. I didn't need them.
you right. And I there's like a few bosses that you kind of needed it, right? But
Yeah, but like
yeah,
Yeah.
So,
without saying too much. Yes.
but yeah, so like to Kirby's point, like if you can get past a certain point and not use core mechanics that are like integral to the game, like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, it's fine to have extra stuff that you don't need, right? But like the core mechanics, that's part of the gameplay loop. You should need those. You shouldn't be able to complete the game without learning those.
And
Or
like
do
Neo
it.
has some very interesting core mechanics for combat. And it's a shame that there's so much in it, but like it's not explained very well.
Right. I agree.
Even with 2 tutorials. So that's yeah.
See, I would feel the same way about I shouldn't say the exact same way, but so far a lot of the moves in Hollow Knight have not been super required.
Most of this, you're right. Most of it isn't required.
In fact,
But
Hollow
I'm
Knight
okay with
doesn't
that.
even have a tutorial.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, the first little baby
It
section of
doesn't have anything telling you what to do. It's just giving you atmospheric area just like the rest of it. You know?
it didn't have a couple things like how to jump or something.
I actually
I don't remember.
I thought it
Oh,
did,
True
maybe
Crime
I'm
Streets of LA is a video game. No shit. Okay.
wrong.
Anyway, I'd look it up.
But like, I don't mind that you don't have to.
I don't either.
You don't have to learn everything. Like you get all these other things, and it's not like you needed them. It offers a different play style if you want to use them. Like for me, like some of the nail masteries, I don't use
Never
them
use
because
them.
it takes too long to charge up or whatever. I
And the damage you
personally
deal
haven't
isn't that
found a way
good with
to utilize them. Yeah, they're not that good, and it just throws me off my game. I'm sitting there focusing on charging up rather than just trying to deal damage. You know?
Yep.
I mean, ultimately speaking, what I think Hollow Knight succeeds in is the fact that it's pretty simple in terms of how things are in terms of combat, but it works that way. And because
Right.
it's simple, they don't need to do much of a tutorial. And because when you start out, you don't have any of those basic abilities. When you get those abilities, you learn them and then you use them. So it doesn't need to teach you how to use them, you know? In fact, the way they build their areas, once you get the item, you have to use it in order to get out of that area. Like
Right.
when you defeat Hornet and get the dash, you have to use the dash to get out of that area. So it
See,
teaches
that's-
you in different situations.
That I feel like they did really well in. Like what was another example? The double jump.
Mhm.
Like some of the things that you've learned, like the ground pound, was also pretty well. Although like when you learn like the fart blast of the ground pound, it didn't really matter so much. Because I don't think I've ever been required to use that at all. There was no mechanic for it, but like the double
Fart
jump especially.
blast? What?
Yeah, the black smoke when you ground pound.
Do you mean the upgraded ground pound?
Yeah. That's what it is.
Okay, yeah,
Oh.
like the void spell. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
just more damage.
That's just more
Yeah.
damage, yeah.
but like the double jump, it was like you fell down a couple holes and you're like, okay, now what? And then all of a sudden you're like, now I can get back out because you were going in there. You're like, this is a one-way trip. Okay, you know. But that I felt like was really well built. But some of the other mechanics, like I call it the fart blast. It was just not needed, I guess. But I guess it's kind of by design that way.
Right. You can choose what you want to use and what you don't. Like I actually use the up blast a lot in my playthrough to like when I realized I wasn't using magic that much, I was like, how can I utilize this better? So like I looked for bosses that like hovered above me, and then I'd use the blast to like get them, and it does a lot of damage. The nail arts are really barely used, but I have seen people who have used it a lot. So go ahead.
I, like you, am trying to use it more too, because I've noticed the same thing. I'm like, I hardly use any of these. So then, like in my fight on Grim, I was trying to bust them out, but then I was like, it just threw me out my rhythm. I was
Right.
like, nope, just go for the regular hits.
Fast boys are not where you start trying that out. You try it on a slower boss, and then go.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So that's. So what about the infamous tutorial at the beginning of Twilight Princess?
What was that one
Dude,
again?
I know that you're like on a farm.
It's like
you're like
45
a farm boy.
minutes of tutorial.
You gotta round up like oxes and like shoot things with the slingshot.
Oh,
Yeah,
Find your sword and shield.
yeah. I
Fish.
remember
You gotta
that now.
fish.
I think very few games can pull off a tutorial longer than 15 to 20 minutes without me absolutely hating it. And Twilight Princess is not one of them. I'm not saying Twilight Princess is a bad game, but I'm saying I hate the tutorial. It's too long.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's way too long. It's like 45 minutes even when you've played it before.
Yeah, like
That's too long.
Was it now? Look at the time that it came out in. Like, was it fairly new to be doing Wii remote controls at that point in
to
time?
be fair, but it was also on GameCube.
I played it on GameCube. I
me
didn't
too.
even have Wii
But I agree with
controls.
you. That's a good point.
Then I retract my previous comment.
But that might be a good point. That might be why they had it that long, so you'd get used to the motion controls. But Skyward Sword also had motion controls, and the tutorial was far less time.
Okay, I mean that makes maybe it was just like
And Skyward
did it for
Sword
the
was
Wii.
only motion control.
maybe they did it for the Wii, but like same game. They didn't want to have to like redo it for the GameCube. They're like, whatever, just leave it.
Yeah, they just flipped it and took out motion controls.
Okay.
Or actually, sorry, they flipped it and put in motion controls because they were designing it for the GameCube, and then crossed it over to the Wii, which is why the motion controls aren't as good as they could be and not as much opportunity as it could be.
Right.
Skyward Sword more implements it to its success and failure.
I just saw the Wombat is calling me out, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I just
It's so
noticed
delayed. I don't know why it does it that slow. Like it's like 5 minutes in. It's like, oh, Trell's here.
Oh, hey, buddy. Good stuff. Maybe we need the bot needs a tutorial of how to call me out.
So, are there any other games that the tutorial was way too long that you can think of?
Okay, I'm gonna say this. It was the longest tutorial I've ever played, but I enjoyed it. And it was Persona 5. It wasn't really
Oh
like a
my
straight
God.
tutorial, but no joke, the first 10 to 15 hours, and about 10 was tutorial until the game opened up. But the game is very deep and has enough that it can cover those 10 hours without repeating itself. So I gave it. I actually didn't think that it was excessive. I thought it was needed. It maybe could have been 8 or 9 hours, but it needed to be that long without over. Could it have just info dropped everything on you in the first 30 minutes? Yeah, but you'd have no idea what's going on. You can't give too much information too quickly, or you won't remember any of it. That's
See,
the
on a
longest
game
tutorial
like
I've ever
that, though,
played.
I'd almost
Yeah.
expect there to be a large tutorial because the game itself is like how many hours?
It's like 100 hours. It took me 95, so
Holy moly.
it is a long game.
See, I feel like that's okay if you're gonna have a long game. Is like, please set me up adequately. So if you take your time to explain it to me, because you already knew it was a long game, so you're in it for the long haul. So
Oh, yep.
I guess a large tutorial is to be expected.
But let me think. I feel like there's almost every game I play, I want to skip the tutorial. But
Hold on, no, I say that though, and now let me say this: does the gameplay even warrant that long of a tutorial? Is it that complex of a game?
wait, Persona, I'm right?
Yeah, Persona.
Yeah, it does. And it's not just the gameplay, it's not just the combat, but like you have different like social skills, like your intelligence and your charm and your proficiency,
Okay.
which is like your dexterity. And then there are these things like these people called confidants that help you along your journey. You have to learn how to level them up, and like based on how you interact with them and what like persona, which you think of as Pokemon, you bring with you. They level up and they interact in different ways. And it is pretty deep, and there is quite a bit that you need to understand to really get the most out of the game.
Okay, so it's not like I'm gonna make fun of it now. The turn-based, I was like, how much do you really need to know? Like you click and you wait type thing.
No,
you
the
know?
turn-based, that's fair. The turn-based is probably like an hour or so of the tutorial, but mostly it's just going over weaknesses and status effects and stuff like that. The majority of the tutorial is how you interact with the world, because half the game, or a bit more than half, is like a life sim where you be a student, do student shit, which sounds really boring, but it's really good. But in my opinion, it is warranted.
I love this conversation because like he just every like 5 seconds he has to like break in and say, I know how it sounds, but it's good.
It
It's
sounds
good.
so bad. It sounds. If someone described Persona 5 to me, like, I'm never playing this game.
I
But
mean,
it's
you could
really
describe
good.
a whole bunch of games and make it sound unappealing.
That's true. Yeah.
All right,
Like-
you play as this bug, and you kill stuff, and that's it.
I just love games that you have to defend right off the bat. Like it really makes me want to play it.
Listen,
That in turn-based.
you'll
like,
never like Persona because it's turn-based. I'm not going to try and defend it to you. If someone was more open to a turn-based game, I would sell them on it. You won't like it. It's
you
not
would,
your
you
kind
would
of game.
sell him on it. Listen, he sounds like he can just make any turn-based game sound amazing. You sit
To
there
someone
and
who's
you
open
wait.
to turn-based, I
You
can.
sit there and you wait. Do you want a tutorial on how to wait? Because then you're waiting for the tutorial too.
I'm willing to bet
So
a
good.
boss fight for me in a turn-based game is shorter than a boss fight for you in Hollow Knight because of how much time you spend outside the boss room, running back to your little
That
bench.
doesn't count. That doesn't count. That's pre-boss fight, okay?
That's pre-boss fight.
This is a
Oh,
whole
okay.
new category.
I was gonna say something, not about Persona, but about a tutorial, and now it got lost. on
long
me.
tutorials.
Yeah, like the tutorials that are too long or that one. Oh, like no, this wasn't long tutorials. There are some people that like. I guess it is long, but not for the reason it should be. I'm playing a game called Killer 7. It's an old GameCube game, but I'm playing it on Steam. The game makes no sense. I have no idea what's going on, but it's fun. the tutorial is you have to talk to this like ghost guy, and his shirt says dumb stuff. Like one time it said sexual, one time it said Toronto. It just says stuff randomly. I don't know what it means, but he'll be like, "Master, we're in a tight spot." And first of all, that text takes like 30 seconds for him to say, and you can't skip it. You can either skip the whole text or none of it. So you either don't get the tutorial or you do. And I didn't have the patience to sit from every single time you talk to him, "Master, we're in a tight spot. It doesn't look good." I just went to the wiki and I learned everything I need to learn about the game in about 5 to 7 minutes of reading, where like I would learn one thing about the game and him telling me we're in a tight spot every time. And I didn't have time for that.
But like, you'd rather read than have it just displayed to you?
Yes, because if I read myself,
It's reading either way.
Well, here's the thing. It's either give me all the text at once, like in a wiki, or give me that text over the course of 20 minutes for one tip. I don't read that slowly. Respect my reading ability. Like, come on.
My reading ability.
And don't tell me, Master, we're in a tight spot, because there's like a list. It's like, do you want to learn about like XP? You click on it. Master, we're in a tight spot. It doesn't look good. You need to get stronger, and to do that, you need XP. And then he goes off about how you get XP, what it is, because it's kind of convoluted. I'm like, okay, that's XP. Now let's learn about weak points. Master, we're in a tight spot. It doesn't look good. If you want to beat the enemies, you need to shoot their weak points. To see their weak points, you press left trigger, and like just like the first 40% of every tutorial is the same. I don't need it read back to me. Just let me read it all at once.
This is Persona 5, right?
Okay, fuck you. No, Persona 5 is amazing. It's the best game I've ever played.
What game was that then, for reals?
Killer 7.
Killer 7.
It's an old GameCube game
Okay.
where you play as some dude who is like insane. He has like 7 different like assassins in his mind. You go around shooting like ghost dudes, and the tutorial is just so bad. And the game doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense anyway. So you need to. The game's great. I'm probably gonna give it like an 8, 8.5. But
Ooh.
the tutorial is garbage.
So, do you think the tutorial will make that number go down some?
Yeah, I'll probably give it an 8, 7, 8.5. Let's say the wiki didn't exist. If I was playing this back when I was like baby Kerbo on the GameCube without like knowing how to use a wiki properly, I probably wouldn't have played the game straight up. I wouldn't have been able to play it because it doesn't make sense.
What is wiki? Oh.
Exactly. I wouldn't have known to look up the wiki. So I would just quit. So it would have been garbage. Like,
Wait, so you've been impatient your whole life?
yeah, like always.
Like always.
Like always. This isn't like new. Oh, I'm impatient now. No, I've always not wanted to like wait for crap.
That's so good.
But it's, yeah, slow tutorials are the worst.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question is, which do you prefer? Tutorials that are pop-ups in the game that tell you what to do, or do you prefer it integrated into the story more?
Always integrated, like the way, not even just Souls, the way like Heavy Rain and Detroit does it by like having you do, even if they're like boring tasks like washing the dishes or like shaving your beard. I think that's much better than pausing my gameplay, taking me out of the game to make me read.
Well, I mean, sometimes pop-ups just pop up while you're playing. So,
Fine,
like,
either way, making it like, I'm a hands-on learner. Like, if you want me to learn any skill, not even just a game, I learn better hands-on than if you give me a manual, and that carries over to me playing a video game too.
Right. I remember back in the day when like games used to come with manuals.
I like those. I like to read them on the way home to get excited.
Right, and like they had like little pictures and stuff, or like animations.
Yes.
It's really neat. Like I remember having the Ocarina of Time manual once upon a time.
Like,
I
manuals are
I
fine,
wish I
but I don't
still
want
had
it in
that.
the game.
Yeah. Got it.
I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
I missed the manuals just for the art and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Used
I used to buy like the walkthroughs just to look at the artwork. I didn't care about the walkthrough. Like, I wouldn't
that's
follow
awesome.
I don't mind if there's pop-ups. Like, sometimes it's annoying, right? Like let's take a look for Ocarina of Time. Navi sometimes was a little annoying with how persistent, like the listen, you're like, oh, that's reminding me that there's some tutorial right there. I don't have to actually take it, but could you just please shut up, But that tutorial was like, it was kind of novel in how they did that, because it was like, you can have the tutorial whenever you want. It's always there for you, and that was kind of cool, but also annoying at some point.
Always.
always there.
Hey.
Always.
And
But
I mean,
I-
it wasn't necessarily as tutorial as it was hinting at the next area, or sometimes smacking you over the head for the next
Yeah.
area. But like, yeah, it was like a helpful navigational tool.
It was the Microsoft Clippy of
It was.
Nintendo.
Mhm.
And on that
But-
same line, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It was good and it was optional, so I guess I can't complain too much. But
I mean, Link
That's
to the
fair.
Past had arrows that blinked on your screen on the map to tell you where to go.
Wait,
So-
it did?
Yeah,
did?
it did.
I didn't know that.
I just beat that game last year. I don't remember. Huh. I don't know how I missed that. 'Cause I was lost a lot. I was on the wiki. I had NDE in that game. I'm like, I don't know where to go next. I'm mad. And I Googled it.
Big NDE.
I did. But here's the thing. The tutorials I think I hate the most, besides the long drawn out ones, are hand holders. Like, don't treat me like a goddamn 5-year-old. I've played a video game before. I don't need you like literally. Now you go here, okay, Kirby. Okay, and now you go over here and you press A to pick it up. Like, shut the hell up. Just
Yeah.
like respect me enough to play the damn game and learn it. Like, don't tell me nothing. Tell me the basics, but do not hold my hand the whole way. Then I'm not even playing the game. It's like a backseater in your pocket the whole time. Like,
yeah. Well, I have to have you have to have mad respect for games though that will integrate it as part of the level. You know, like you don't even know you're getting tutorialized until you all of a sudden you're like, wow, I just actually got out of this ditch by doing this wall jump that I didn't even know you could fucking do until I kind of like explored it and I fucking learned it. You're like, that's games that can like kind of challenge you and still make you learn or like,
oh yeah, that's
wow,
fine.
That's
I'm most of that when
amazing.
literally like tooltips are popping up and forcing you to do something before you can do anything
Right.
else. Every step of the way, I'm like, dude, stop.
Yeah, agreed.
There you go.
Wait, what is this? Oh yeah, please let me. Oh, on the map. Okay, yeah, that is fair. I didn't know those were there. I knew I had to get to a certain area. I thought you meant like on the overview map there'd be an arrow like telling me where to go.
Yeah. Sometimes it was white arrow after you got all the pendants. Like I think.
Oh, okay,
but, like,
okay,
that was
I
it.
gotcha. That I did see. I'm not that blind. I was still bad.
Ocarina of Time did that too, but Ocarina of Time, since it was such a big area and it was their first 3D, they felt the need to make sure like people knew a general area of where they need to go next because it was so big.
That was a whole new like concept though. Like no one had really been playing. It's kind of like with the Wii comment I made earlier. I'm okay if it's like a brand new thing, like Joy-Cons. You kind of get expected to see that with Joy-Cons as well. It's like this is a brand new concept for a lot of people. Maybe no one's ever done like motion controls before. Let's go ahead and give a tutorial or whatever, but make it optional. Like I played the Wii and the Wii U. I get Joy-Cons. Don't introduce this to me. You know,
Yeah.
just make it optional.
I think it's interesting that Ocarina of Time was, I don't know, like even people who play it today, like for the first time, and don't know like that it was the first 3D Zelda game and stuff like that, they still find it fun and entertaining and good. And then for us, we're like, oh well, here's this thing that I'd like to pick apart, and then we're like, oh wait, but this is the first Zelda game. Wow, it makes sense why it's like that. You know what I mean? So it's interesting how it holds up to multiple generations for different reasons.
Right.
Like it doesn't rely on that excuse to be good.
That's fair.
You guys might laugh. One of my favorite tutorials though is RuneScape. And Toronto is one of your
RuneScape.
favorite games.
I've
So-
I've never played RuneScape.
You start on Tutorial Island. That's what it's called. I'm not joking. And
Yeah.
Perfect.
you make your character real quick and you just go through all these like there's like different skills in the game like fishing, fire making, wood cutting, stuff like that, and you go through all of them and then like you meet friends there. Like when I played RuneScape back in the day, you talk to other people who are on the island and I became friends with them through the course of my like 4 or 5 years in RuneScape. And I don't know why. Like, it probably wouldn't be the same if I played it again now. There's probably some rose tinted goggles there for nostalgia, but
But
I
so
really
you met
ended up, like-
people and then you became friends with them IRL.
no, not IRL. I didn't meet any of them IRL, but in RuneScape I did. Back then, when I was in like 7th grade, I wasn't trying to meet anyone IRL online. But we were RuneScape friends for a long time because like you finish Tutorial Island at the same time, and it spits you out in Lumbridge, the starting area of the game, and you're like, well, now what? Well, no one knows what we're doing, so let's just go hunt goblins or something. And it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
There wasn't anything really innovative about it, but yeah.
How does that differ from something like World of Warcraft Tutorial Island? Because
I
each
don't
race had
know
like,
if I
its own
remember.
thing.
I've played World of Warcraft like 3 or 4 different occasions, and I've gone through the tutorial that many times. I guess the only thing I think of is Tutorial Island is one place in RuneScape, and once you leave, you can't go back there without making a new account. So I don't know why. It always just felt special to me, and
Okay,
I guess
so
it's probably not that different now that I think about it. But
that's very much like Guild Wars had that. They had pre-searing, is what it was called.
okay, I've never played Guild Wars 1, only 2.
So like they had this area, like you're spoils for anybody that's gonna swim and play Guild Wars. But you would have this area that would before all this like events happened, like a big cutscene would happen, and like all of a sudden all of humankind would get attacked, and the searing would happen. So then this area was pre-searing,
Mhm.
and it was like that where people literally would stay in there and have characters perma pre-searing, and then they would make other characters and just like go do other things in the game. But they were like, I want to be able to be in there, and there was like this weird, unique kind of like atmosphere or culture to pre-searing.
The
and
culture, dude, the culture of games is fun.
it was just weird. I was like, this is bizarre. And like, so then there was like, so the max level in Guild Wars is 20. So then there was
Okay.
a special achievement of getting max level in pre-searing. It was stupid hard to get. I got it because I was obsessed with the game. And but like there was like this weird freaking culture. But like, yeah, getting max level in Babyland or Tutorial Land was the thing. And it's funny that like that became something. And so I get what you mean with the RuneScape, I guess, without even playing the game.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
just good.
Achievements in Tutorial Land. Maybe that should be a whole concept that we talk about.
I love. Yeah.
You know, Wombat would go for it. He's got 100%.
Right. I mean, not in everything. Like something, I'm like, no thanks, I'm good. And then there's some things that everybody else is like, no thanks, I'm good, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Well, yeah, Dark Souls 2. Come
Right.
on.
That's obviously that's me with most of the things you do, Wombat.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I mean, doing lasso on Halo.
3 times
Yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, all 3 that are out so far.
That are out so far on PC. Yeah.
I agree.
One thing I will say is that speaking of Halo, Halo has some of the least tutorial games ever. Like,
Do you need it though? Like it's just point and shoot, right?
I agree with that. Like there's not that like besides the armor system, like sprint and like active camo and stuff in Reach. At least in Halo 1 and 2, it's literally point, shoot, reload, grenade.
right. And 1 and
Which
2.
is fine.
By the way, Kirby, have you played through all of 2 yet?
I haven't played through any of 2 yet.
Okay. You're in for a treat.
I can mute myself if you want to talk about it. If it's a
No,
spoiler.
no.
Okay.
So like in 1 and 2, since let's go in the Halo order. So 1
Sure.
and 2, they had an area at the very beginning of the game where you're like coming out of cryo sleep, or they're upgrading your armor in
yeah,
the
that's
2,
right.
and they have you look at like lights, and then ask you if you liked that or if you want to invert your
Oh, okay,
looking.
so whatever direction you press.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
kinda
you're right. There was that
and
one
then
tutorial.
they show you how shields recharge, and then there's a area where you have to jump at some point in the first level to teach you that you can jump, and then everything else you can see at the top of your screen, like as do this command to pick up the weapon or whatever, or to
Yep.
throw grenades. So like you don't need to like have a tutorial for it because it shows you on the fly. So like I guess that's kind of like what I meant by like pop-ups while you're playing, is like it's not it's not interrupting gameplay. It's
That's
just
fair. Yeah. If it pauses gameplay and tells me something, I'm normally like, ooh. If it does it like a little pop up, or alternatively, if it tells me, hey, if you want to know more about this, go into the menu and read about it. That's fine. If I interrupt the gameplay myself, that's okay. But I don't want to pause my gameplay when I'm in the middle of comment, like, hey, buddy, you can block.
Hey,
Yeah.
buddy.
yeah. I just one thing that I find hilarious is that like they put in a jumping area in the games so that you have to jump.
Gotta practice jumping, buddy.
So like, and you guys have all played Halo 1, so I can tell you this one. Like,
Yep.
after you wake up out of cryosleep, the next area you go into is a hallway with some pipes running under, and you can't go through the door ahead because it blows up. So you have to jump over the pipes and that's the tutorial.
So glad you brought that up because I was actually about to bring that up. A little slight little twist. I absolutely one thing that actually a little bit triggers me is when you have in the tutorial, press blah 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 to crouch, because I don't know how many games I've seen where they have that, and then all of a sudden there's absolutely no need to crouch at all in the game.
But you can.
But you can, and it's like, why? You made me. You actually spent like 5 minutes of my time to make me learn crouch, and I really didn't even have to.
Yup.
There
Like,
is
why'd
a
you-
crouching section in Halo 1 later on in that level. So yeah, I guess crouching's another one. Although they don't really do that in Halo 2. They don't actually have you jump in Halo 2 either, but 3 they do. So yeah, interesting point. Although crouching is definitely a useful tactic in the Halo games. Not everybody uses it, but
I
crouching is
don't.
definitely a
But
thing.
maybe at the hard difficulties.
Yeah,
it
harder
is.
difficulties, you definitely need it, especially like
Yeah.
Lasso. If I didn't have Crouch as my buddy, I'd be like fucked. So, but yeah, like I see what you mean though. Sometimes, like especially in like other games where crouching is really not necessary.
Yeah.
One game that I really liked the tutorial on, even though it was completely skippable, is Warzone. I really liked Warzone's tutorial.
Actually, yeah, that was actually pretty refreshing. Because it even took on like the like a training course of like
Yeah.
you going through, and I thought that was actually pretty novel. I liked it.
It was good. It taught you everything, and everything made sense, and then I was good to go. Like it was short, quick, to the point, but
Yeah.
effective.
It was very effective, and the only way you're gonna get better is if you just go in there and get started. You know.
And then
I
they
think-
also do a tutorial where they drop you in with bots, and you have to win the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, so not only do you learn everything, but then you use it right away in a real live situation, and it makes you feel
Yep.
good about completing it because you win. And it's
And
probably the
they
only
give
win
you-
you'll ever get. But
They make
Yeah.
you see the dub, and then you're like, I want that now.
Mhm.
I need that more.
I need more of that. I need that reward.
So
So, I
I'll give
feel like-
Warzone that one.
I feel like Call of Duty. Have you guys ever played any of the earlier ones?
Modern Warfare 2, the original one. That's it though.
Modern
that's it,
Warfare,
like-
and I think I played 2 as well.
I played like I used to
I played
play
World
all
at
of them, like,
War
one-
and Modern Warfare.
I played the first one, second one, all the way up until, and then I kind of stopped. What was the one before Ghost? I never played Ghost. I think it was Black Ops 2.
don't
I was
know.
it was Black Ops. I don't know.
But one of the ones, I think one of the earlier ones, maybe it was Call of Duty 2 or something. It had something like where you were like a bunch of like soldiers just kind of BSing around, and it was like you know, hey, why don't you toss that grenade over there into that like little hole and see if you can make it, and blah blah. And it was just kind of like this is kind of silly, but at the same time, like it was fun. It was a fun little tutorial, you know. You're just like sitting there BSing with the boys, you know.
With the boys.
Man, yeah. I say, what's the part that you hate most about tutorials, other than like the waiting or bringing you out of the game? I would say, I don't know why, and I'm gonna reiterate again, the ducking on pipes. It's like, don't show me.
Because every game has you dark. Like, bro, I don't know. It's like, why do you have to learn this?
Is there any other that gets me triggered? And it's probably more so than it should. But is there any part that triggers you guys?
The day I have to IRL duck under a pipe, I'm like, oh shit, this is the start of my adventure. I hope I'm ready. Like,
IRL ducking pipes.
let me think.
I guess my least favorite thing about tutorials is when there isn't one and it's needed.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like when they don't have a tutorial.
And they think their game's super intuitive and it's not.
When they don't have a tutorial and it is needed, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
Do you think there should have been a tutorial on the menu system in Dark Souls?
I think they should have better gotten into weapon scaling somehow. Because that didn't make any sense. But
I agree.
I mean not the menu, but sometimes like menu stuff can be like I just don't like the menu. You know.
The menu was pretty garbage in Dark Souls 1. It's improved significantly all the way
Yeah.
to 3.
I would say to go back to the question, my least favorite part of tutorials are the ones where they give you too much information at once. I just feel overwhelmed. I'm like, dude, what do you like? I'm not gonna learn all. Like they either tell you there's no tutorial and they just say, hey, go into this menu and read everything, or they try and tell me 17 things at once and they didn't really explain all of it. Or when there's like information missing, like for example, they'll be like, oh, you gotta do this and your heat gauge rises, and then you can do your super move. And you're like, okay, cool. What's a heat gauge? Not even there. Can't find it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
bro, you don't know what the heat gauge is? Come
the
on.
heat gauge, bro. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to do with that. So
Yeah, that was a lot of information you just gave me. I'm not really sure what to do with.
yep, I hate info dumps. Like I don't need like you can have a substantial game, a deep game with a big tutorial, but like you gotta parse it out. You can't give me everything at once. I don't know what this
Right.
is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did Dead Rising have a tutorial? I'm trying to remember now. I mean,
It kind of like they had pop-ups, if I remember right.
yeah, okay.
And I'm okay with pop-ups too. Like it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna be acquainted. You meet the pop-up, right? And you're like, we're gonna be acquainted for a little bit. I get it, all right. And it keeps coming up. You're like, hi, how are you again? And all of a sudden it's like, eventually you want to depart from it though. If I would say if you go through a pop-up tutorial system, you eventually want to depart from that system. You should
Yeah, if I
not
need
be.
pop-ups the whole game, like
It's annoying. You're sitting there in the middle and you're like you're getting juiced up. You're like, oh my god, we're about to go fight the final boss, and all of a sudden it's like, hey buddy, remember?
hey
You're like,
man, but you didn't know
okay,
this.
thanks, thank you.
Yup.
Now, how would you feel about that if it was like, we're going to introduce a brand new concept right here at the end of the game for this final boss fight? Don't. Exactly. Don't. Even if it's going to be like, just don't. Like, let me fight the game that I know I'm playing.
Yeah, why are you changing the game in the last boss? If you really had to add something, do it like 30% ago. Like,
right.
why do not add something in? Like, you can want the last boss to be different to where it does some mechanic that the other bosses haven't done, but don't make it so different that it requires an entire tutorial for.
Here are the devs. Oh, we're going to change the game at the last minute. What a twist!
Like, that's not like. If you want to pull out something like, oh, we haven't done this before, that's great. Every boss should feel different, and you can make changes to the base, like don't make changes to the base mechanics, but like flirt with it a little bit, I guess. But if I need a tutorial to understand it, it's not good anymore. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Did games like Star Fox have tutorials? Star
No.
Fox 64?
Well, actually, no, they did.
It
They had
did, the first
Slippy
level.
Yelling, press B to boost or use a bomb.
Do a barrel roll.
Yeah, so they did, but it was mostly just your comrades yelling at you. And actually, I think that was a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah.
So
It's basically like Otis with his
Otis.
his radio.
The pop-up system was there in Dead Rising 2, I believe. I think it was still showing you stuff like right outside
Oh,
the
you're
final
right.
boss
It
fight.
pops up the combo cards. You're right.
Yeah,
it does do that.
Yeah, and then Otis in Dead Rising 1 was definitely the thing there. So let me twist this a little bit then. If you guys were to design a tutorial system, how would you do it?
I really like the way Dark Souls did it. You can have you have optional notes on the ground that you can read, but besides that, it's pretty intuitive how you do stuff for the most part. Obviously, I would need to do something with the menu system to make it a bit easier to understand. But I guess bare bones, the simplest answer, I would make it all integrated into the gameplay. But you can go into the menu if you want to read a more detailed instruction of whatever mechanic works.
I agree with Kirby, except I was going to say I like the way Hollow Knight does it instead of Dark Souls. But the same things apply that he just said. You know, like there's optional messages. There's like things you can go in the menu and read more about. One thing I really like about Hollow Knights is they train you for what's to come, whether you realize it or not. And let me just...
You mean like the Grim dudes?
Well, I don't even need to talk about the Grim dudes because they're DLC. Let's talk about base game.
Sure.
You remember Soulmaster, right?
Oh yeah, his little warpy friends.
So on the lead up to Soulmaster, in the labs that he's experimenting in souls in, there's like all kinds of different creatures. There's the
Probably
soul.
hasn't even played Dark Souls.
Who?
Soulmaster.
Oh, right. Yeah. So there's that mini boss fight before Soul Master. That's like the soul, the guy with the sword. You remember that, Charles? And he warped around and slammed down, and he shot things at you, but he didn't do what he did some of the moves Soul Master did, but not really. And then there was other guys that floated around and had swirling things around them, and they shot things and teleported. So like both of those enemies were teaching you how to deal with that for Soul Master. They were training you, whether you knew it or not. And that's really cool. Point. And they did that time and again. Like, that Kirby could point out immediately another example of that. It just shows
Grim homies.
Like, yeah, all the Grimkin were training you for the boss that was coming. And that's really cool. And they did that a few times with different bosses. Now, they can't do it with every boss, but like that's how they taught you stuff in the game. Like, it was very tangent, interactable. You learned it without realizing you were even learning. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's
my favorite way to do it.
It's great.
Right
it's
there.
Perfect.
Like, it's like the learn by experience or learn on the job learning is basically what I would refer to that as. It's like they kind of throw you in a little bit of the deep end because they're like, here's a brand new dude. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But it's not like you don't have the complete stress of like, oh my god, it's a boss and I have no idea. It's like they gave you a little bit of an introduction to the boss, and then you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden you go in there, you're like, I've seen this move before, and
right.
like, and you can act on it, but it's a little bit different, and you're like, okay, how do I do it? He's a little bit faster. How do I react faster? And it's just, I would completely agree. I love the way Hollow Knight did it, and if I was to design a game, I would try to do it like that. The problem is though, it's like when the game's so big, you got like different people making different levels, right? Like maybe Dark Souls is not the best example here, but like. Would it be like level designs? People are like, you make this level, and then all of a sudden they're like, now how do we combine it all together? And it's like there was no. Dark Souls 1 was a fantastic map, so this is not a good example at all.
Well, that's why you have a good lead level designer, right? Like, you're right that you have these groups designing Blighttown, Best Town, the archives, all this crap. Then the lead level designer, whoever, the director, has a general overview of like, this is how it should all look when it comes together. And hopefully, like in Dark Souls case, he or she did, they come together and they make sure that the levels have their own individual feel, but there's some way to connect all of them.
You have to have like 500 IQ. You're like, okay, first
you do. I couldn't fucking do it.
And then when you go down to this area over here, you're going to learn this skill that you're going to actually learn how to execute properly in area 4. But in area 3, then you're going to be like you'd have to have like hats off to the directors that are able to kind of like make not even like each level being a different feel, but then also making it where you had, right? Yeah, you learn something that you're going to use later on and blah blah. It's just like,
I mean,
designing Metroidvanias, I would love to like talk to them like, how the hell did you think of any of this? And not just Hollow Knight, but Hollow Knight, of course, Super Metroid, Symphony of the Night, Bloodstained, any of the Metroidvanias.
How do you have 3,000 IQ?
You gotta like, how do you even think? How do you play 5D chess? Because that's what they're playing.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I mean, really.
A couple things to say to that. First of all, I think that is one. So as we all know, Team Cherry is a very small team. There's only 3 people. So that means that the person that's designing the levels, he designed all of it, meaning that he has it all in his head.
How do you do it?
A medal for that.
So you, like there's other things where it's a team, it's a lot harder to do that. But since it's one person, he's able to like do it in that way. The second point is like having made like Metroidvania levels in Zelda, like where like you do things like you do things someplace to get an item to go somewhere else and do things like it is a difficult thing, and you really have to like think wider, not like at the same time as thinking specifically, and it's and that's pretty cool. I don't know, whenever I made a level with a Metroidvania style, I always felt like I'm not trying to sound obnoxious, but like I felt smarter.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Like
you were granted eyes.
I was like, man, I got big brain right here. But like
big 300 IQ plays.
And then when you watch somebody play that level and they get it, and you're like, oh, I managed to do it where somebody else gets it too. Like that I think that's one of the reasons why like Mario Maker was successful is because like the interaction that you have like showing other people the level and like them getting it is just a really cool thing.
Right.
So like, and like Mario Maker, they didn't really need a tutorial because, you know, the tutorial was playing other Mario games. Right? But
Right, Mario
Yeah.
is so simple. You move and you jump. That's
right.
it.
And you press a button to hold it, and if you'd let go, it lets go. Yeah. What
I thought
about
the puzzle levels, like what you're saying in Mario Maker, were so good for that reason in particular because like
Yeah.
you would just see like when they finally figured out like, oh, you could do this and this and this combination, and all of a sudden you get this, all of a sudden like they were granted eyes. They're like,
Right.
oh my god.
speaking of puzzle levels?
It must have.
Go ahead.
It's a shame like some of the like Metroid like the original Metroid or like even OOT or something like that. It's a shame things like Twitch didn't exist back then because it'd been satisfying to see like the creators of those like watch people get like
Right.
the water temple and then they're just like they understand now, you know.
Yeah.
It would have been fun to see the creators.
I'm sure
reactions
they
on
still
that
got
temple.
to see it, you know, with playtesters and like other people playing the game, you know.
This level sucks. They're like, maybe we should delete the water temple. I don't.
I'm glad they kept it in
Me too.
for the memories, but oh my. One day I want
Stone
you to
Tower
tell me a
Temple.
good water
I
level.
don't think the water temple was that bad. It's just that there was so many keys and people missed that
It was
one
bad
key.
because of it was confusing and you had to change your boots like 17 million times.
that
it wasn't done.
Yeah. And
Menu,
that doesn't
menu.
have anything to do with the water temple. That has to do with the game's mechanics.
It was the
It
limitation.
was the
of
water
the
temple's
medium.
fault.
It was the water temple's fault. It was the same thing though. The same menuing BS was in the Stone Tower one where you had to change out many times there too.
Right.
Yep.
Because it's
Stone Tower
N64.
Sucked.
So speaking of puzzle levels, one tutorial that I want to bring up is Portal.
Portal's a great tutorial.
Yeah.
In quotes.
The whole game.
Not-
The whole game.
But that's
tutorial.
see where Portal can get away with it though because like it builds on itself through different tasks in a lore-based way. You know what I mean?
Right. The
Right.
one where you don't feel like you're even in a tutorial because it goes so well with the game's story and narrative. That's the best
That's
way.
exactly it.
Yeah.
But that's because it's testing chambers. Like,
Yup.
like that's
Oh yeah, you definitely have to be smart in how you design your gaming tutorial so it doesn't feel like a tutorial.
I
Yeah.
feel like it did it really well too with the humor and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
where
yeah.
the narrative, like you just said, it was able to just pull it off so well.
Portal's so good. Too bad Valve hates number 3, but yeah,
yeah.
I love Portal. But I think that's a really good point to bring up, Wombat, is the tutorial in Portal because
Portal
I
and
don't want to call
2.
it tutorial because it's just, I mean, it is, but it's just gameplay that teaches you how to play the rest of the game after that, and it's so good it more or less teaches you how to play Portal 2.
Right.
But
Yeah.
And
that
like
there
if they introduce new mechanics, they actually like build on itself as they give the mechanics. So like
That's exactly what I was just gonna say. Like in Portal 2, exactly when they introduced like, oh look, this is a bouncing gel, you know, like it went along with the narrative, and then it just still like was able to keep building
right.
and a good example bringing up Portal, to be honest. Portal 3 win, come on.
The only complaint I'd have about Portal is that it feels like they introduce new mechanics over and over and over again, and then at the end, like there's only a short amount of time where you have it all and can use it all.
That's
Now,
probably fair.
for the first 3/4 of Portal, you're in the testing chambers learning and learning and learning, and then the sweet release when you escape and you're trying to get out and you're using everything that you've learned, but it's only like a quarter of the game. And like
Right.
I guess that's the only thing that it suffers from is like there's so much build up that like they can only do so much for so
time to have.
long.
I agree with you there. And this isn't really tutorials, but I just hate in general when games give you really badass armor weapon skills in the last 10% of the game, or even worse, when you get a badass armor for 100% completion and you're like, now what? Well,
Right.
great, thanks for giving this to me. I'm done. I've done literally everything. I don't want this.
Yeah, thanks Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just dumb. But anyway, I agree with your
Thanks
point.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
to I mean, this is a lame excuse, but I think
Hey, you
one
can-
excuse for those things is like when you start introducing more concepts, like and then having them interact with each other. Do you think there's a point where it's just like, oh, this is a little too hard to make to design around this? Like, how are we gonna contain the person if they can do all these abilities all at the same time or something?
I think you're right, and I think if you get to that point, then you stop. You just don't add it. You've done it, right? Like you don't need to keep adding your game until it's bloated as shit. And that's a problem with everyone thinking we gotta make open world games. They have so much content, and either one of two things will happen: they make it open world, but they don't have enough, so it's literally empty and there's nothing going on in Shadow of the Colossus. Or not that it's really open world, but it feels like that.
Twilight
or
Princess.
There's Twilight Princess, yeah. Or there's so much crap that it's just like, why do I need any of this stuff? I don't need these skills. I don't need these weapons. This weapon's the same thing as this other weapon, but worse. I don't need it.
Mario Odyssey.
So, yeah, exactly. Mario Odyssey is a great game, but I would rather have any day stars or shine, sprites, whatever, like Super Mario 64, like Mario Sunshine, where there's 100 or so stars, which is plenty, but they're meaningful and not, oh, I kicked a rock. Thanks for a moon. Like,
right.
like, because it's a problem, right? Because like, there's some moons where you have to beat a boss and go through a whole level to get it, and there's some moons where you kick a rock, and the game's telling you that beating a boss is the exact same value as kicking a rock.
Right.
Like, what the hell is that? It's stupid.
Yeah,
I have a whole video of somebody completely tearing up Odyssey, and like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my playthrough of
I loved
Odyssey,
it.
It was
but-
fun. I loved the game.
but there is some very valid points about it in that
Right,
video.
yep.
I
I
would
agree.
agree. Jinx.
Damn it. Oh,
Oh, you owe me a red. Is that Code Red?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, dude, I can't drink Code Red. Ugh.
Why?
I didn't never really took to it too well. I do now some of the other flavors of Mountain Dew. Like, have you tried the lightning one? That's the one that's like exclusive at KFC.
No,
Sweet Lightning, that's what it's called.
I never even heard of that one.
Yeah,
I
it's
know Baja
exclusive
Blast,
KFC.
which is exclusive for Taco Bell.
I love Baja Blast.
Me too.
Yeah, but yeah, you gotta try Sweet Lightning at KFC. Even if you don't eat at KFC, just go in there and be like, I want Sweet Lightning, dude. It's so good.
And now another word from our sponsors. Tired of being tired? Mountain Dew Code Red. I'm sorry.
no, that was good.
Good stuff. Any last words on tutorials? Favorite tutorial of all time?
Ooh,
Or least favorite tutorial?
at least there's so many of them just like Pokemon's up there just because Pokemon's not a complicated game. It doesn't deserve an hour-and-a-half tutorial.
No, it does not.
It
And I
doesn't.
think it would benefit a lot from what a simple thing that you just asked, like, "Hey, are you
Yo?
Have you literally ever played a game before?
Yugen.
Yo,
My
Tony.
man.
Yo, Tony.
Thank
What's up,
you for
Tony?
the sub, man. Let's get
It
some
does-
hats in chat.
It does kind of break it a little bit though, like if you did that, because like you're supposed to be like a 10-year-old just going and getting your first Pokemon. So I guess how could they be like, have you been
Yeah,
a
for
Pokemon
kids,
trainer before?
fine. Let it, as first question: are you under the age of 10? If they say yes, then it gives you the whole tutorial, and you're a kid. But I'm 27 years old. I don't need you to treat me like a kid. Yeah, Pokemon's a kid game, fine. I don't care, but I don't
Yeah.
need this.
Or did your parents tell you how to be a Pokemon trainer? And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have any parents.
I don't have
I mean, so so some people might argue that there are games that are designed for children, and so they have the tutorials as non-optional because they're designed for children and they want to make sure that the children are supported. Do you think Pokemon falls under that category? Like they
Just
still
ask
make
the
them
question
toward
like-
children?
How much do you owe on your mortgage? Just have it asked, and the kids gonna be like, "What the hell are you even saying?" They're gonna say, "What?" And then it gives you a tutorial. And then if you say anything besides that, it's like, "Oh, this is an adult plan. We don't need to give them a tutorial." I think tutorials should always, 100% of the time, be skippable. I don't care if the game needs it. If I skip it and I don't know what's going on, that's on me. You should never, ever be forced to play a tutorial.
My least favorite tutorial is Twilight Princess's tutorial.
It's bad.
It takes
It sucks.
maybe-
The game's good.
It's the only reason that I haven't played Twilight Princess more than once all the way through.
Fair.
In fact,
You're talking to.
I have a save file on my on the Twilight Princess HD. I have a save file where I played the tutorial beforehand, so it's all ready to go for when I want to play Twilight Princess. So I don't have to play it when I stream.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. That's actually smart plays. That's like 200 IQ right there.
Yeah.
And I think to bring up the point I just said about you should always be able to skip a tutorial. The ones that are integrated into the story, if you skip it, just give me a short cutscene. Yeah, I hate cutscenes, but at least cutscenes, if they're like, I don't have to do anything.
So he
I
can
just
skip that too.
skip that shit too. Yeah, but like if it's story related, then just give me a cutscene with everything that would have happened in the tutorial. Why do I have to listen to you tell me how to play the game if I don't want to?
Even if it's built into the level design, just skip that. Just throw them into the final boss. Done.
Yeah, I'm done. Let's go. It's my fault. I'll get smacked around. You know?
And then he'll quit the game and start a new game, and he's like, "What was this tutorial?"
Yup. Exactly. Exactly.
Dude, good stuff.
God.
So what about you, Trowel? What's your least favorite?
Least favorite? Zombie. I thought the game. I mean, apart from me hating the game, I thought the game was just dumb. Like the like in tutorial sense. I mean, like so they don't really introduce the concepts of what you need to learn. That you get thrown out, you die, you don't even restart your character. You start a whole brand new character that you don't have any fucking sentiment towards, and then like the game crashes. We'll leave that out, but I feel like it didn't explain anything.
He's
You didn't know
losing his
how to
shit.
effectively kill zombies. It was like you have to go and do this thing over and find the camera feed or something like that. I don't even remember most of it. I tried to delete it from memory, but I had half the time the controls were jank. I had no idea what I was doing. It didn't prepare me at all, and all of a sudden you just keep dying, and I was just like, this game sucks.
You keep dying.
The game was
The game
so
sucks because it
frustrating.
made zombie killing boring.
It did. I mean, like, if I'm playing a zombie game, I should be able to whoop ass on a zombie. I want to kill lots of zombies. Dead Island was probably the brink of where I would start to say it was. I think it was a fine balance. You could kill zombies easy enough, but there's also a challenge. Dead Rising lets you just feast on killing zombies. You can just murder as many zombies as you want, and then sometimes that's good. Left 4 Dead, you can just go and there's like hordes incoming, and you just
Many.
spray them with bullets. It was good. So Dead Island is probably like one side of the area that'd be like, you're getting close to like they're getting too hard, and then the other one is like Left 4 Dead where you're just spraying them. Zombie is way off the left field, and it's just like, why is this even a game? You know?
Yep.
Ugh. There, I had my rant on Zombie. That's been built up for years.
Good.
And yet, it's the most watched stream you ever had.
It really is, dude. I hated it so much. All right, I got to be wrapping up though.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm gonna eat soon.
I guess the last question then is, what was your favorite? Because I don't know if you ever told. Both Kirby and I did, but
Oh, favorite?
Yeah.
What did I say my favorite was?
You said you like Dark Souls,
Dark
right?
Souls, right?
Okay, yeah, Dark Souls. Dark Souls is good.
And favorite. Trying to think of one that Hollow Knight's a pretty good example. I'm trying to think of something that
That was my favorite. Get out.
I know. I'm like, what can I say is different than that though? Games have I recently just played that I was like, that's not bad actually. I've only played a little bit of this one. I thought it was maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe I got rose color goggles on. I was gonna say Splinter Cell, but I've only played that game probably to the tutorial, and I thought maybe I'm just like, oh, that game was kind of interesting, but it's how you, because there was some kind of complex concepts that you had to kind of get down, and I thought that it built it into the storyline pretty well. It's a franchise I want to go back to. I never really finished, but maybe I'm remembering that wrong. But I'm gonna throw out that just as a
Okay.
At least tutorial inspired me to keep going with that. Still today, I haven't, and I'm just lazy because I got so many games and stuff like that. But it's the tutorial, like, because I think I played it in a demo or something like that, and the demo was a tutorial, which is something in itself that we could talk about. But I don't know. I think it did it well. I just wanted to call out Splinter Cell there. I'll just say Splinter
I've
Cell.
only played one Splinter Cell game. I think it was Blacklist. It was fun.
You didn't play them in order? I hate people like you.
Do you need to?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you?
Some games you don't like the Persona games. Don't need to play them in order. The Assassin's Creed games. Well, maybe you did early on, but now you don't need to play them in order.
No,
Dark
you don't.
Souls,
Yeah,
it helps, but you don't need to play them in order.
but it just bugs me. You have to. You got to.
Why? If they're not related, why?
Because you got to
Like
know the
Far
history.
Far Cry as well. Far Cry 5 has nothing to do with the other ones.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
No,
never played
no. I
Far
mean,
Cry.
it's just it's Far Cry because it's the same theme where you're like you're stuck
What
somewhere
about
for some reason.
Fallout?
You got to shoot baddies.
What about-
Fallout didn't play those in order. Don't think you
Yeah.
have to.
Fallout, man, Fallout's actually a really good one. I want to change my answer to Fallout. Because like you start the tutorial is like the vault or whatever, and then you like get released and it's like
Yep.
it's almost like you're coming out into the world and you're like, there we go. This is now you're starting the adventure. You had tutorial in the vault. Go get them.
You want to know why I haven't ever played a Fallout game all the way through?
Because you get sidetracked with so many stuff.
Because I couldn't get past the vault.
What do you mean?
It
What
was
stopped
too
you?
long.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
It was too
Wow.
long.
That actually does surprise me.
I got bored. Like I was like, I'm in this vault forever, and then like, I
Wait,
actually
did you try Fallout 4?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
that one has the shortest intro sequence, I think.
It does, and it has like a really important
think
part that
I-
goes on. in
Fallout
there.
3 is what I played, or
Like
maybe it was
the-
New Vegas, one of the two.
Oh man, dude. Surprise.
Yeah,
Surprising me.
I mean, like I think at the end of my first time playing, like it was like forever in the vault, and I finally got out, and I never came back. Like, yeah. I'm like, wait, it took this long to do this?
I want to
I'll
say,
get to it at some point, but
see, that's how I feel with Splinter Cell. But now that we're talking about Fallout, I really do like the Fallout things. It's almost like a rite of passage, like the tutorial section, because I honestly probably could skip it, but at the same time, it's just giving you the introductory storyline that you
right.
get to interact with a little bit, where you're like, kind of like Halo style, you look left, right, or whatever, and you're just kind of like gearing up again. So it's also not skippable because if you just got let out into the world, you'd be like, Wasteland, let's go. Where am I going? I have no idea, So I do like how they make it almost a part of the story. That's actually really good.
Hmm.
Anyways, I got to get going.
All right.
That's fair.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you aren't stuck in tutorial land in your own lives, but hopefully
Dude, you're like I'm still learning. There's no way any of you are on a tutorial island yet. Anyone who says they're on a tutorial island and isn't like 85 is lying.
Right. Well, and then like we're getting new concepts too. We're getting like DLC thrown as coronavirus.
Yeah, look at all this content that's going on. Bullshit. Anyone who says they left tutorial is a liar.
tutorial
You gotta wear-
land
you
is
gotta wear
like
masks.
elementary. It's like grade school, and then you get put out in the real world, but you still get pop-ups all the time. That's what I think.
God.
This
Tutorial
life
realize
would be a game with
suck.
pop-up tutorials. Life would be a game like that. That's,
It would. It's so long. Skip. I've played this game before.
taxes? What do you mean I got more taxes? What?
No. Evasion.
But yeah, so we'll be back in 2 weeks' time on a Sunday morning here on the stream. Hopefully you'll join us then. We'll probably be talking about something, but if we're not, we'll be talking about nothing. So either way, it'll be fun. We'll see you then. Bye,
You
guys.
guys.
But